Hi. I always say quick update. I don't know why I say that. Anyway, quick update. I took out the tubes that were here. Even before they were a direct cross. Unfortunately, the bars hit the anti-roll bar, so now I've took them out, put some seamless tubing because it was a lot better to bend, and basically now the anti-roll bar can take the full travel of the suspension. The push rods are being welded at the moment, as is the front suspension. Fortunately, Chris is super busy, which is a real pain. I want the damn thing back. I want to put something on the floor. Turned an absolute load of spacers. Each one of these joints has two, and then obviously there's spacers for the push rod itself to offset the shaft. Quick shoot over here. Move the A-frame away. Okay, dummy drive shaft. Yes, Clyde is straight. Well, I know it's CV joints are missing, but whatever. So you can imagine we have our drive shaft here going through our bearing to there, and then this is our push rod here with our new spacers in. Technically, our push rod is going to sit up there to there, join there to there. It's hard to tell with anyone else, but I don't know. You see we have a reasonable amount of oops. Let's go to the camera. Oh, there we go. A reasonable amount of clearance between the. So I can go to the 2 points on the rocker arm without too much trouble. Should be plenty clear enough. I'm not quite sure the exact diameter of the eventual drive shaft, but I'm guessing it's going to be no more than about 30 millimeters. Definitely not going to be enough to affect that. That's a huge gap. So so we should be good. Be nice to see that in. But by the by, obviously can't do the. I hate saying it, but I can't do the top. I'm going to take this single cross frame out. Probably put a double, but I want to make sure I've got enough room for the induction system, so I don't want to do that until I've got that. It's kind of getting antsy just to get the car on the floor, but you know, without the front wishbones back from the welder, it's kind of awkward. So anyway, roll cage back in. This was the original front roll hoop, which delicately cut out. We lost about 3/4 of an inch in height. I re-notched the tube, delicately welded, ground cleaned this up. But now, basically, I have clearance. Now I have clearance between the hinge pivot and the roll hoop, which unfortunately on the other side I didn't have when we initially did the cage. Put it in. The body I'd got at the time hadn't got the inserts for the door, which is why I didn't use it in the end. And of course that brought the height behind here, and this bit of the fiberglass here, you probably can't see it because of the film. No, you still can't see it. Was touching the shaft, it was touching the cage, and I had to file the fiberglass way to get it in, so that just drove me nuts. So off came the front roll hoop, and we've put it back in. But one thing it did do, so I previously had some lovely kind of gussets in these corners, which is basically another piece of DOM tube that we'd bent on a really tight radius, and then basically put a plate top and bottom, so we had like a lovely in-bent corner to it. But then when my professor come round, he pretty much said, looks lovely, Clive, but you know what, if you get a bar, small diameter, doesn't have to be very big, even like a 3/4 inch bar, space it a little bit further away from where those corners are, it'll still be stronger, and basically it'll do the same job, it just won't look quite as pretty. So I'm like, right, yeah, okay. So I did this, we did the tubes here, basically we went for the simpler option of the tubes, but there's an advantage to doing these, which become apparent if you turn your camera that way around, Clive. On this one, obviously I put the tube into the middle here. I had to bias this one down to the bottom a little bit, so I make sure I got room to the body, and eventually it'll miss the inner skin of the door. This one, I biased both sides down to the bottom of the tube, so when I hole sawed it, basically I was pretty much offset by what would be 5/16 of an inch. So now I have a bar, and if you can see the height there, even with an eventual double skin in the roof, I can put my hand on it. I've got room. So getting out of the car will be fiddly. Put your hand up here, and your other hand here, and it should be a lot easier to get in and out. A bit more dignified, we hope. Plus, you can see the cage is about as pushed into the top of the roof as I can get it. So I've got the maximum amount of room that I have. Basically got the maximum amount of headroom that I can. If you look in there, the two bars there, they're pushed right either side of where the reduced roof area is for the roof scoop. So that's about as far as it's going to go. I can still put a plate underneath those bars. I want to put a plate completely underneath it. There is enough of a room. Whether I do or not is now debatable, but there is enough room there. Basically, I've got about 6 or 7 millimeters at its lowest there, so there is room to put a steel plate at the bottom of there if you want to. But I'm still toying with the idea of using a forced induction, or not forced induction, wrong word. Of running forced air basically into the into the engine bay, grabbing some air from the front here and basically transferring that to the engine bay. If nothing else, just to blow air across the top of the engine and out the back, or anything else just to keep the heat away from the windows that will be in the back here. Oh, the camera's having a wobbly again, is it? Okay, there we go. Right, so that's about up. Cage is polished back in and pretty much tacked up, ready for the welder. Corners here. Been looking at a 962 Porsche recently, helping a friend out doing a chassis for it, which is also be good for me because it gives me a little bit more experience with building a chassis from scratch, and it's all confidence building stuff. Pretty much 962 chassis has a link that goes down to the chassis bars here, but also has a couple of links that come from here roughly that go forward to the dash and then corner to the outside. And I kind of like the idea of that. I've always thought about trying to do that, trying to come from roughly about here on the chassis and come forward to a point. There's a point just below here, maybe just about see if we turn the light on. Oh, if we look up here, there's 4 tubes that meet in this corner at the top of the dash. It's above all the power steering and stuff. It wouldn't affect the top, it wouldn't affect this too much. This would be the same. That meant that the piece at the bottom of the dashboard would end up in 3 pieces. But right now, at this point in time, I think that's sounding like the way I want to go. So pretty much there'll probably be another 2 tubes come off of that roll hoop at the front. It'll shorten this length, and obviously that's going to probably any weak spot. If for whatever reason I landed on its roof and then smacked something, that's obviously going to be the weak spot. If I tie into here and there, it'll make that stronger for rollover. It'll give the thing a bit more rigidity, probably, but to be honest, I'm not really fussed about that now. More anything else, just make this cage as strong and as safe as I can. More reasons for putting all these gussets and stuff into it. And this is all 80 thou DOM, by the way, just to make damn sure that if anything does split, that you don't get the welding seam split and go towards you if the chassis does get hit and moved in. It's best to have seamless tube. But yes, now cage quite high up in the top, blah blah blah. Machining done. Now I'm just waiting for the same thing. I've got both my steering yokes made. They're also turns from a solid piece. They're all turned from a solid piece of 2-inch steel. Turned down, machined in probably about 6 operations. Curved here, curved there, flats on this side, and that was one op. Then I had to machine this side, and then eventually stick it back on the lathe and turn it down here, and then part it off. Have the hole for that, so we'll weld the tube into there, weld the tube onto there, and then we have our rod, but I keep talking about it. I just want my damn suspension back so I can get on with it, and then I can plonk it on the floor. It's really kind of dragging on now, and it's kind of annoying me. I need to get this thing on the floor so then I can clean the bed up, reskin the frame, because you can see the chassis in this point is right up against the outside edge. This is this wooden frame is 6 foot wide, so the car is pretty damn near 6 foot wide. Fortunately, that's close to about 8 inches too narrow for a 962. Porsche 962 is actually 78 inches. I think it was 78.5, maybe 79 inches wide. Wider than this, so it's lower and it's wider. So you can imagine why the damn thing's handled so well. Everything just sunk down. Lots of engineering to do on that, but it should be fun. And I can still get stuff done. I'm still waiting for the engine to come back. I'm still waiting for, oh God, waiting for too many people at this point. It's just kind of, frustrating. But whatever, it's got to be done. Once the engine's built for this, then I shall come back and finish off the front plate to the motor, and then put all my ancillaries and stuff over, and then I can have it literally on the floor and almost looking like you're about to start the key in my mind. Okay, right, I shall see you all soon.